10 Most Magnificent Ancient Egyptian Temples. Medinet Habu. The Temple of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu is a significant New Kingdom structure on the west bank of Luxor in Egypt. Medinet Habu, the Arabic name for the massive temple complex, ranks second in size and preservation only to the temples at Karnak, Pharaoh Hatshepsut, and Thutmose III had a smaller temple built here to worship the god Ammon. The temple is approximately 150 meters long, with a formal design similar to the nearby temple of Ramesses II. The temple complex covers about 210 meters by 300 meters and features over 7,000 square meters of decorated wall reliefs. Its walls are relatively well preserved and surrounded by a large mud brick enclosure. The original entrance is through a sturdy gate known as a migdal, a common architectural feature of ancient Asian fortresses. Inside the enclosure, to the south, are the chapels of Amenhotep I, Shepenupit II, and Nitikret, all bearing the sacred titles of worship to the god Ammon. The first pylon leads into an open courtyard, flanked by colossal statues of Ramesses III as Osiris on one side and uncut columns on the other. The second wall leads to a hypostyle hall, again featuring columns in the likeness of Ramesses. This processional route leads to a third pylon, and then into a large hall with supporting columns, now without its roof. The temple remains well preserved and continues to attract many tourists due to its grandeur. Ka-Mombo Temple. The Ka-Mombo Temple is situated on a high sand dune on the east bank of the Nile River, between the cities of Edfu and Aswan. This temple exhibits ancient Greek-Roman architecture, dating back to around 180 BCE, built by the Ptolemaic dynasty. It was completed in the 3rd century during the Greek rule of Egypt. As a result, the temple's interior architectural features reflect both ancient Greek and Roman styles. It is the only temple dedicated to two important Egyptian deities, the crocodile god Sobek and the falcon god Horus. The entrance gateway of Ka-Mombo originally had 2 entrances, but the left half has completely disappeared, leaving only the lower portions of the central column and the right wing intact. Upon entering, look at the front right wall to see from left to right the gods Sobek, Horus, and Khans, a hieroglyphic text comprising 52 lines, and the benefaction of Emperor Domitian wearing the Upper Egyptian crown, similar to the Horus temple in Edfu. The forecourt here was initially surrounded on 3 sides by a row of columns, but only the lower halves of 16 columns remain today. In the center of the courtyard is a square altar, while along the far side is a stone screen. The reliefs on the right stone screen depict the ibis-headed Thoth and the Horus-headed Horus pouring water as an offering to King Neo's Dionysos, with Sobek the crocodile standing to the left. The front hall is adorned with 10 splendid columns, featuring palm capitals, while both walls and columns are adorned with reliefs. Colossi of Memnon. The Colossi of Memnon are 2 colossal stone statues of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, who ruled Egypt during the 18th dynasty for 3,400 years. They have stood in the Theban necropolis, west of the modern city of Luxor, along the Nile River. The paired statues depict Amenhotep III, 14th century BCE, in a seated position, with his hands resting on his knees and his eyes facing east. The statues were carved from quartzite blocks, quarried at Al-Gabal El Ahmar near present-day Cairo, and transported 675 kilometers overland to Thebes, Luxor. The blocks later used by Roman engineers to reconstruct the colossal northern blocks may have come from Edfu north of Aswan, including the stone platforms on which they stand, about 4 meters. The towering columns reach a height of 18 meters and weigh approximately 720 tons. The 2 statues are separated by about 15 meters, with a total height of 36 meters. Both statues have suffered damage, with features on the torso almost unrecognizable. The southern statue consists of a single piece of stone, while the northern figure has a large crack at the lower half and on the waist, comprising 5 layers of stone. The upper levels include a different type of quartzite, a result of later reconstruction efforts Roman Empire. It is believed that originally, the two statues were nearly identical, although inscriptions and minor artistic details may differ. The original function of the stone guardians was to stand watch at the entrance of Amenhotep's memorial temple, a grand structure built during the pharaoh's lifetime, where he was worshipped as a deity on earth both before and after his departure from this world. In its day, this temple complex was the largest and most luxurious in Egypt, covering a total of 35 hectares. Even later rivals, such as Ramesses II's Ramesseum or Ramesses III's Medinet Habu, could not match its scale. Even the Karnak temple, as it stood during Amenhotep's time, was smaller. The pair of statues remains among the most significant monumental sculptures of ancient Egypt. Particularly noteworthy is the phenomenon of the statues emitting a peculiar sound, resembling singing. Mortuary Temple. Located beneath the cliffs at Deir el-Bahari, on the west bank of the Nile, the mortuary temple was designed in a colonnaded structure by Hatshepsut's royal architect Sennemet. It serves as the place of worship for Hatshepsut after her death, expressing reverence to the god Amun. Hatshepsut's temple features a terrace layout, deviating from the centralized structure of the Mentuhotep model, a deviation possibly influenced by the off-centered location of her burial chamber. It consists of 3 ascending terrace levels, reaching a height of 29.5 meters. Each level is connected by a double row of square columns, except for the northwest corner of the terrace, where protodoric columns are used for the prayer hall. These terrace fields are connected by long ramps, once surrounded by gardens with exotic plants, including frankincense and myrrh trees. The tiered structure of Hatshepsut's temple corresponds to the classical Theban form, incorporating colonnades, courts, a hypostyle hall, sun court, chapels, and the sanctuary. Hatshepsut's temple is considered Egypt's closest approach to classical architecture. However, the original architecture underwent significant alterations due to misguided restoration efforts. In the early 20th century, Luxor Temple is a temple complex situated on the east bank of the Nile, the ancient cities of Thebes and present-day Luxor. Built around 1400 BCE, it is known as the Southern Sanctuary. The temple was constructed to honor 3 ancient Egyptian deities Amun, Mut, and Chons. In front of the temple stands a towering obelisk, built by Ramesses II, adorned with scenes of his victories, later pharaohs, especially those of the Nubian 25th dynasty, also recorded their triumphs there. The main entrance of the temple was once flanked by 6 colossal statues of Ramesses for seated and to standing. Although not as large as the Karnak temple, Luxor Temple has a similar structure with monumental gateways, an open court, and parallel obelisks at the entrance. The main entrance of Luxor Temple features two granite colossi, carved on the 25-meter-high granite slab, are pictorial hieroglyphics. In front of the temple is the renowned Avenue of the Sphinx. Originally, this 3 kilometers long avenue was lined with Sphinx statues on both sides, connecting Luxor Temple to the largest temple in Egypt, the Karnak Temple. The temple has 3 main sections, with the last section serving as a reception hall for inviting deities to the Opet festival. However, Alexander the Great intruded and built a chamber dedicated to the god Amun. The outermost section houses the solar bark. Luxor Temple is primarily built from limestone quarried at Gebel Silsileh, a stone quarry located southwest of Luxor. This type of stone is also known as Nubian sandstone and was used to reconstruct fortress temples in Upper Egypt. Luxor Temple represents a blend of various religions, including Islam, Christianity, and Egyptian paganism. It is undoubtedly a must-visit destination in Egypt for art enthusiasts. Edfu Temple. The Temple of Edfu is an ancient Egyptian temple, located on the west bank of the Nile in Edfu, Upper Egypt. It is one of the best preserved temples in Egypt, dedicated to the gods Hathor, Horus, and Dendera. The temple was constructed during the Ptolemaic period, from 237 to 57 BCE. Edfu Temple, one of the most beautiful temples in Egypt, is the second largest in the Colossal Museum of Ancient Egyptian Temples, surpassed only by the Karnak Temple in Luxor. Like Kamwombo, Edfu Temple was built during the time of Greek rule in Egypt, resulting in a splendid fusion of ancient Greek and Egyptian architecture. The temple combines traditional Egyptian elements with decorative features of ancient Greek architecture, dedicated to the god Horus, falcon god, to gigantic falcon statues carved from stone placed ceremoniously at the main entrance of the temple, heads raised high in a dignified and imposing stance. The temple reaches a height of 37 meters, making it one of the tallest temples in ancient Egypt, due to the influence of the Nile River's humidity in this area. Edfu has preserved the colors and intricate details of its wall reliefs, hieroglyphic texts on stone columns, and interior walls. The temple's reliefs depict various mythological aspects. It's hard to imagine that this magnificent structure was once buried more than 12 meters under layers of sand and silt from the Nile, for thousands of years, only to be discovered by a French expedition in 1860. Seti I Temple. The Temple of Seti is the burial place of Pharaoh Seti I, located on the west bank of the Nile. This ancient temple was completed by his son, Ramesses the Great. It houses the Abydos king list, depicting the royal lineage of Egypt from Menes to the time of Ramses I. This exceptional limestone structure has an unusual L-shaped design rather than a rectangular one. The temple, forming an L shape, includes a quay, a connecting causeway, a terrace, to hypostyle halls, although mostly lost on the exterior, with 2 courts and halls, followed by to hypostyle halls and 7 sanctuaries, with additional chambers to the south, forming the short leg of the L. The temple has 7 large gates, and is dedicated to 6 major deities: Osiris, Isis, Horus, Amun-Ra, Ra-Horakhti, Ptah, and Seti I 1294 to 1279 BCE. The entrance is led by mostly destroyed twin-columned porch, and to open courts, built by Seti I's son Ramses II, depicted on the gate roof. Originally with 7 doorways, but now only entering through the main door, the first hypostyle hall, with its first row of columns, also completed by Ramses II, is entered. The reliefs depict the pharaoh's offerings to the gods and the preparation for the construction of the temple. The second hypostyle hall, with 24 paper-like columns made of sandstone, is the final part of the temple decorated by Seti. Behind this second hall is the conservation area for each of the 7 deities. Seti I's Grand Temple is one of the most complete, unique, and beautiful temples still existing in Egypt today. It's undoubtedly a marvel of ancient Egypt, and its name is sure to come up when discussing the wonders of Egypt. Abu Simbel Temple. Abu Simbel Temple consists of 2 large rock temples in Abu Simbel, a village in Nubia, southern Egypt, near the border with Sudan. These twin temples were carved out of the mountainside in the 13th century BCE, during the 19th dynasty of Pharaoh Ramesses II. Construction of this temple complex began around 1264 BCE, and lasted for about 20 years, concluding in 1244 BCE, known as the Temple of Ramesses. Beloved by Amun. It is one of the 6 rock temples erected in Nubia during Ramesses II's long reign. The Abu Simbel Temple is located adjacent to the Aswan High Dam. Inside are 4 large seated statues with determined gazes, facing forward. The main façade of the Abu Simbel Temple is approximately 40 meters wide and 30 meters high, with the Grand Hall and small palace situated 60 meters deep within the mountain. On the main frontal wall of the Abu Simbel Temple are 4 adjacent carved reliefs. These statues reach a height of over 20 meters outside the temple. There are also stone statues depicting the sun god Re-Horikti, along with the goddesses of justice and truth Mat. The corridor features 8 large columns representing the god Osiris, the deity associated with the afterlife and death. The complex comprises 2 large temples and 5 smaller temples. The larger temple stands at 30 meters high and 35 meters long, with 4 colossal statues seated on each side of the entrance, depicting Ramesses II on his throne. Each statue is 20 meters tall. The smaller temple nearby stands at a height of 12 meters and the length of 28 meters. This temple is also adorned with large statues. On its front façade, 3 statues on each side of the entrance depicting Ramesses and his queen Nefertari, 4 statues of the king and 2 of the queen, each at a height of 10 meters. The temple honors 3 important protective deities of Egypt: Amun-Re, Ptah, and Re-Horikti, as well as the pharaoh Ramesses II. Abu Simbel Temple was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the mid-1960s. Karnak Temple. The Karnak Temple complex is a renowned archaeological site located in the city of Thebes, the ancient capital of Egypt. This site comprises numerous ruins of temples, colossal statues, worship halls, and towers, situated on the east bank of the Nile. This temple was constructed between 1580 and 1160 BCE according to research. Karnak was the place where Egyptians worshipped the sun god Amun-Re, the war god Mon-Tu, and the goddess Mut, wife of the sun god, as well as various pharaohs for centuries. The temple was continuously built by around 30 successive pharaohs, each leaving their architectural mark on Karnak, with its complex architecture and numerous colossal statues. The temple leaves many visitors in awe. The first striking feature of the temple is the entrance gate, with 2 rows of imposing ram-headed sphinxes, symbols of the god Amun, the god of fertility, with grand gates, courts, halls, numerous stone columns, and tapering towers. The outermost gate of the main temple is 43.6 meters high, 113 meters wide, and has a wall thickness of 15 meters. Behind the gate is a corridor with surrounding columns, leading to smaller temples. The most remarkable architectural features of the temple are the hundreds of original 16 meters high stone columns with a diameter exceeding 1 meter. A special aspect of visiting the temple is the inscribed hieroglyphics on the stone walls, which are quite interesting and unique. A prayer of the pharaoh himself. The inscriptions depict symbols resembling a keyhole, carved all around the pharaoh. The walls of the temple are adorned with reliefs portraying the victories of various pharaohs vividly. After thousands of years of existence, Karnak is still regarded by Egyptians as their holiest temple. Karnak Temple in Egypt was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1979. Isis Temple. Isis is one of the oldest goddesses in ancient Egyptian mythology, the second child of the god Geb and the goddess Nut, and the sister and later wife of Osiris. She also has a son, Horus. Prominent on the picturesque island of Philae is the Temple of Isis, the most prominent temple built to honor this goddess, with an open inner courtyard. It was constructed on Philae Island in Lake Nasser during the Ptolemaic period. The main structure of the building was erected by Ptolemy II to the north of the Nectanebo kiosk. There are 2 rows of columns leading to the first column of the Temple of Isis. Although all capital columns are in the form of a lotus flower, no 2 are exactly alike. Many columns depict the Roman Emperor Tiberius making offerings to the gods, and there are 2 rows illustrating the assistance of Tiberius and Augustus on the back wall. The temple is the last of the ancient Egyptian temples to be closed when it was shut down by the Roman Emperor Justinian, who ruled from 527 to 565 CE. Although it has been relocated due to the rising waters of Lake Nasser, the Temple of Isis at Philae remains a long-standing tourist attraction in modern Egypt. The greatness and beauty of the ancient Egyptian temples are not merely expressions of aesthetics. These magnificent buildings and revered deities are also proud symbols of the people and the legendary land of Egypt.